Ja, und die restlichen beiden Kategorien, die sehen Sie dann später noch heute Nachmittag und morgen Vormittag. Wir wechseln den Fokus und wenn ich die Weltkugel hier so schön vor mir und hinter mir sehe, wir waren eben in Italien mit Herrn Barilla, jetzt geht es circa 600 Kilometer weiter östlich in ein Land, das wir kennen, aber wohl nicht viele von uns vielleicht ganz spontan auf der Landkarte zeigen könnten. Es sei Ihnen verziehen, denn es handelt sich auch um den jüngsten Staat in Europa. Es handelt sich um den Kosovo. Kosovo hat seit April diesen Jahres eine neue Präsidentin, bereits die zweite in der Geschichte eines Landes, das, und so sagt die neue Präsidentin, sehr geprägt ist, noch immer durch ein sehr patriarchales Gefüge und eine Tradition, die es zu durchbrechen gilt. Das ist eine der Herausforderungen der neuen Präsidentin. Es gibt ganz viele andere in einem Land, das geprägt ist von einer sehr turbulenten Geschichte, auch von einer sehr dramatischen und zum Teil auch sehr tragischen Geschichte. Wichtige Punkte in Ihrem Programm, in Ihrem Mandat, das 5 Jahre dauern soll, sind unter anderem ein Reformprogramm und sind unter anderem auch Bestrebungen gegen die Korruption, die im Kosovo noch immer eines der großen Probleme darstellt. Und das wäre das nicht genug. Sie ist auch angetreten, um die Beziehungen zu Serbien zu normalisieren. Wir merken, da ist ganz viel Arbeit, das auf Sie wartet, die es anzupacken gilt. Wir sind sehr froh, ein Land kennenzulernen, dieser jüngste Staat Europas, 2008 unabhängig geworden, das wir vielleicht gar nicht so auf der Landkarte haben. Please welcome, with a very warm applause, Madam President, Vjosa Osmani.
Good afternoon, everyone, respected guests, esteemed fellow speakers, dear organizers of the Swiss Economic Forum. Good afternoon once again. I'm truly pleased to be with you in this year's edition of the Swiss Economic Forum, which is rightfully considered as one of the most important and prestigious events that takes place here in Switzerland. Being here in Interlaken reminds me once again that Switzerland is indeed one of those countries that have come closest to finding the perfect formula for a life spent with great well-being and prosperity. Listed among the top 10 countries with the highest GDP per capita, as well as ranked among the world's best countries for citizens to live, Switzerland remains a role model for many countries around the world, and similarly so for the young Republic of Kosovo, which I have the honor to represent. Kosovo must be familiar to many of you. Some might have heard of it through the stories from a neighbor, your employees, or even your family members. Others might be doing business with a company in Kosovo, from one of your star Swiss Kosovar football players, and some of you might have even paid a visit to my country. In fact, parts of Kosovo and our culture are widely visible in the Swiss society, as Switzerland is now home to more than 200,000 citizens of Kosovar origin. To speak of Kosovo is to speak of a story of suffering, perseverance, belief, and immense hope. The past has been very tough. The present is challenging, but to all of us, our future is clear. The Republic of Kosovo belongs to the group of peace-loving countries that will constantly contribute to the project of sustainable peace in our region and beyond, and ultimately join the big European Union family. Kosovo, its institutions, and its people are overwhelmingly pro-European and pro-EU. Certainly, the economic and political reasons are important, but our devotion to the European project goes well beyond this. We all fundamentally believe and are committed to promoting what we know as European values. Europe is our home, and the membership in the EU would ultimately complete our journey as Europe's youngest country. We truly believe that the benefit goes both ways. With the membership of Kosovo and the Western Balkan countries, the European project will itself gain its missing puzzle and will eventually deliver on its original aim of securing lasting peace by further enhancing economic and political exchange across the entire continent. Indeed, these are times of great uncertainties, quick pace innovation, and ongoing geopolitical battles. While we might not be certain where all of us will end up, we know all too well where we all came from. And after the war in 1999, Kosovo had to start from scratch. Today, 22 years after the war, I can proudly say that the Republic of Kosovo has emerged as one of the most vibrant democracies in our region. We are aware that greater regional economic and political cooperation, greater cooperation on the green agenda, greater cultural, academic, and tourism exchange paved the way to European integration. But we will only be able to move on with truthful cooperation once the region thoroughly deals with the past. That is the precondition for sustainable peace. This is that very necessary milestone that would thereafter help the region focus on the development agenda. To this day, I consider this one of the biggest political challenges of the Western Balkans. Kosovo, ladies and gentlemen, is committed to delivering on reforms. We know that our success is the success of those who have stood by us in our darkest time as well. And we want to live up to their expectations, including our friends here in Switzerland, so we can also share and cherish our successes with our partners now in the best times. But most importantly, deliver for the people that we represent. Today, the whole world is challenged by a common enemy, so is Kosovo. Our economies are facing greater challenges, and on this note, I want to say the following. We will not be able to recover our economies fully and to seek for new horizons unless we fully recover our health. Witnessing a sharp increase of infections in Kosovo, here in Switzerland, and all around the world, we must understand the individual and collective role, as well as responsibility of each and every one of us in this fight with the virus, and in our attempts to revive our economies and to fully reclaim our livelihoods. To everyone here in Switzerland, to my fellow Kosovars who live here in Switzerland, to everyone in Kosovo, I say, please get vaccinated. Let's give ourselves a chance to build back better. As a post-conflict and developing country, Kosovo needs economic stability and wide-ranging investment. And there are many sectors with a high investment potential that foreign direct investors could benefit from. Given our high dependence on imports, it is precisely the target export-oriented investment that we are looking into. On top of increasing the export base through FDI, we aim to stimulate production, which would be utilized as a tool to soften high unemployment. We aim to contribute to human capital formation through supporting training and labor mobility, which would ultimately become a driver of new skill and knowledge acquisition among our labor force. And as we do so, our aim is to bring as many of you aboard, obviously. Dear participants, when you look at the Republic of Kosovo, you are looking at a country with the youngest population in Europe, with 70% of our population under 35 years of age. You are looking at a country with high availability of skilled and cost-effective labor. The gross monthly salary is 380 euros. You are looking at a country with 20,000 highly educated job seekers, out of which 8,000 graduates who enter the job market every year. You are looking at a country with low and extremely competitive taxes, a straightforward tax system, and a place where international accounting standards apply. You are looking at the country with a completely new legal infrastructure, which is proud to be fully in line with acquis communautaire and all other EU standards. You are looking at the country with an 89% internet penetration rate, ranked among top countries in the world. You are looking at the country with the highest concentration of German speakers, ranked immediately after Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Thanks to its continuous efforts for improving doing business environments, Kosovo is identified as a top 10 reformer worldwide. Kosovo is also very impressively ranked in terms of economic freedoms as well. According to the Heritage Foundation 2021 Index of Economic Freedom, we're ranked 58 in a list of almost 200 countries. The Heritage Foundation has in particular recognized Kosovo's improvement in the judicial effectiveness, government integrity, labor, and trade freedom. And according to the World Bank, prior to COVID-19, Kosovo has had solid economic growth for more than 10 years, being of 4 countries to mark growth every year since the beginning of the global financial crisis back in 2008. And according to forecasts, we are even expecting a growth rate of 7.9 by the end of this year, which is, of course, highest in the region and beyond. Kosovo provides free market access to European Union through the Stabilization and Association Agreement signed with the European Union, the Balkan countries through the Central European Free Trade Agreement, and it also benefits duty-free treatment for different products under the generalized system of preferences. In summary, Kosovo sounds like your next ideal business opportunity. However, I am not here to paint a rosy picture. Rather, I am here to speak the words, the feelings, and the expectations of the people I represent. I am here to share our real story. When you heard of Kosovo, you probably heard of problems of the past too, including recent challenges with rule of law. And this is why in the parliamentary elections that took place this February, our people overwhelmingly voted for a platform focused on justice and jobs, knowing very well that justice and rule of law is a precondition for creating new jobs. Therefore, rule of law is at the forefront of our work, and the reforms in this sector are happening these months at a record pace. We understand that this is a precondition for sustainable economic development, as well as to attracting foreign direct investment. That is why we shall not give up in our efforts in this direction. Our people want a more equitable and just future, and the current institutions are committed to delivering precisely that. I started to get involved in politics very early, back 22 years ago, because it was the most natural thing to do right after the war, to help your country get built. I really wanted to help the other people in my country in this mission. But today I'm in politics because I want to see my country thrive and progress. I want to lead my country to new heights, and I'm convinced that the way to do so is by investing in human capital and by embracing sustainable and equitable development. More than ever, we understand that our decisions today will impact the lives of so many generations in the future. Facing a pandemic, we understand that economic growth and development should and must be centered on people's needs. It is therefore that the program of the new institutions in Kosovo is centered, as I mentioned, on rule of law and creation of new jobs. And it is our goal to invest in education, in the health sector, in gender equality, in green recovery, and in our youth, which comprises the vast majority of our population. This is the reason why we are working day and night to root out unmeritocratic behavior and ensure we present our country in the best possible way, so we create the necessary conditions to attract the right kind of investment, both at home and abroad. As we strive to build forward better, we aim to do this in close coordination with the private sector, as well as domestic and international investors. In this journey, we aim for sustainable investment across all sectors, and in particular in the area of food industry, agriculture, the information and communication technology, where our youth is excelling, renewable energy, tourism, textile and industry, plastic industry, wood industry, as well as the metal industry. There's absolutely no reason to block Kosovo as the only country in the region and turn it into an isolated country in the Western Balkans. The facts listed earlier should suffice for everyone to give Kosovo and its people a fair shot. We are full of brilliant young minds, and we want to develop their potential in Kosovo. We need them in Kosovo, and we will work hard to make them prouder of their country by the day. Our youth remains our most precious resource. Our young men and women are genuinely talented, they are highly skilled, tech-savvy, and multilingual. They will make you feel at home and will help lead your company to new and remarkable successes. When they are given a chance, they never cease to amaze. Just look at your football team. So today, I want to urge you all to give them a chance. As we face a pandemic, one of the most posed questions remains: will we develop something new or stick to what we know? In line with this, and the theme of this edition of the Swiss Economic Forum, I invite you to open new horizons. I invite you to give Kosovo a chance, or at least come and visit, so you can see how wonderful it is for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. If I can ask you for a little Q&A over here. Thank you so much for giving us a little insight into a country, as I said, that many of us don't know. I had the pleasure to visit, and something I must say, it has some similarities to Switzerland. So it really looks like Switzerland in some ways.
The beautiful mountains and so on.
Of course. You face a lot of challenges. We heard about them. If I could just pick one out, and you talked about the youth of Kosovo. It is indeed a very young country, the youngest country in multiple senses in Europe, average age 30, and you just made a huge advertisement for the young people in Kosovo. However, it has been estimated that the population of Kosovo could decrease because all these young people are leaving the country. The problem of brain drain, how big of a risk is it?
It used to be a much bigger risk. Look, I don't want to sound too much of a politician here among businesses, but it really comes down to how much you hope, whether you do have hope within your country, whether you have hope for a perspective within your country. If people among our youth lose hope, obviously they will search elsewhere in the European Union, here in Switzerland, or even further away. Since this year, the level of hope that the young population feel, not just for finding a job, but for simply being or excelling at what they do best, is much higher than it used to be in the past, which is the reason why Kosovo is not even in the top 40 in the list of countries that are immigrating. So the number is really, really low. That does not mean that we should be content with what is happening in these past 6 months. Quite the opposite. This gives us an impetus to work even more to create the necessary conditions so that they don't have the obstacles and the problems that they have been facing to find a job, to see meritocracy while they are finding a job, and to fight all negative phenomena. I did mention that one of the problems in the past couple of years has been lack of rule of law. Nevertheless, with the reforms that have started with the new institutions, this is the top priority because we see it as a precondition to development in every other area. If there is rule of law, if there is justice in every single sector, if there is meritocracy in every single sector, obviously this leads to higher development, to sustainable development, but at the same time it leads to making sure that we use the human capital that we have. And this, to conclude, will also require that we change the governing mindset from one where our country used to spend 80% of its budget in highways, which we didn't need, at least not as urgently, and in wages, to a budget that invests in human capital, which means education. Education, education, education is key. And more or less, not just education that produces diplomas, but education that also matches the requests of the trade and the market.
The fight against the structure, the remaining structure, is one very high on your list. You keep mentioning rule of law. As a former law professor in the United States, I take it that it's very dear to your heart as well. A third thing that must be high on your list as well, and it's quite striking that Kosovo, which I said it in the introduction, you say still has a very patriotic sense of culture. You're already the second female president of the young country. I had the chance to talk to your predecessor, one of the predecessors, the first female president, and I know she was very keen on that point as well. How much of a sign is it? How much of a maybe a diversity or even feminist sign is it that you, who have been in parliament, often accused, often been talked about, even attacked or offended, how big of a sign is it that the country has a female president, only one of 20 worldwide?
I'm the very first president post-independence that actually, before being elected to the parliament, I went in front of the people and I asked them to vote for me as their president. So there was some sort of a direct vote, and it was the people of Kosovo that made me the most voted person in the history of Kosovo. This, I think, is a sign, along with the fact that we have the highest number of women elected in the parliament, 43%, respectively, and a high number of women in the government, is a big sign that our society is emancipating. And I often say even quicker than political parties themselves, because sometimes most of the obstacles are within the political parties, but the society is emancipating by trusting the leadership of the country, the leadership of foreign policy, another area, to a women, by trusting women to represent them at the highest number in the history of Kosovo. In the parliament, they are showing that things are changing positively. However, let's keep in mind, all of us women that are now having positions in the Kosovo institutions, that the positions that we keep will be fulfilling only at the moment when we truly make it in dealing with the most acute problems that every woman living in Kosovo is dealing with, whether very far away from Pristina, in rural areas, or around the city. We need to work for them so that they don't face the kind of hindrances that each and everyone had to. It has not been an easy path, but at least we know that the little girls who are watching will not go through the same that we did. And if we have achieved to remove all of those stones that we had on the way for them, I think that's quite a big success.
Please go ahead. Yes, please. Step by step. You talked about the dramatic and traumatic history of your country. And if you allow, I'd like to ask a personal question. You said 1999, you went into politics. 1999 was the year you had to flee your home with your family. Northern Kosovo, you were 16 years old. You had to flee from Serbian police. I think you were 4 or 5 days on the road. During that time, a Serbian policeman shoveled a barrel into your mouth, threatened you. Having all that in mind, and I know reconciliation or discussion with Serbia is one of the big points also of your mandate. Is that even possible, thinking of that history?
It is, with good leadership. absolutely, it is possible if Serbia would only break away from its past and stop glorifying Milosevic, who committed genocide in Kosovo, in Bosnia, and elsewhere.
And the current president, has to be said, doesn't want to.
Unfortunately, because he's a former minister of Milosevic and hasn't shown that willingness. But I do hope that the people of Serbia will make that great step ahead and choose leadership who will understand that Kosovo is a reality that is here to stay. We've been independent for 13 years. We're not going anywhere. We're going to remain independent and sovereign within the current territorial integrity, thriving and moving ahead, and most importantly, contributing to peace regionally. But now our members of our army are also participating in peacekeeping operations in the Middle East. Just imagine, it used to be inconceivable 22 years ago when we were saved, when our lives were saved by NATO, countries like Switzerland and the United States and elsewhere. And now, 22 years after, we are contributing either by welcoming Afghan refugees or by contributing to other peacekeeping missions around the world. Nevertheless, despite of the fact that Serbia did not repent, they never asked for forgiveness. They did not put perpetrators of the genocide in Kosovo, of all of those innocent civilians.
So there's still a lot of work to do, right?
And we even have 2,000 people that are still missing. It is difficult, but the key word here is dealing with the past, which is why I mentioned it earlier as one of the biggest political challenges of our region. If Serbia deals with its past, peace is possible. Never forget, there is a precondition to sustainable peace and reconciliation. This is the lesson that we learn from all around the world. That precondition is justice. Justice for the innocent civilians. Once there is justice, there can absolutely be sustainable peace and reconciliation. As Kosovo, we've extended our hand of cooperation. We're always at the dialogue table, understanding that this is the only means for any kind of peaceful solution. But there's one thing that we never put on the table: our country's right to exist. Never. It's non-negotiable. It has been settled once and forever back in 2008.
Just quickly, going from the past to the future, if you look 22 years ahead, Kosovo is a potential EU candidate. Do you see your country in the EU in the foreseeable future?
Absolutely. Look, since medieval times, we've been fighting along other nations for what are known as Western civilizations. This is who we are. We are European by identity. We belong in the European Union, and we're not going to stop striving to implement all of the necessary reforms. And by the way, we're not looking for a shortcut. We're not. We want to implement each and every criteria for membership that the European Union has had for any other country. But there's one thing: the EU needs to deliver as well. They need to keep their promises as well. We've met all of the criteria for visa liberalization for 3 or 4 years now, but the EU is not keeping its promise, keeping the youth of Kosovo in isolation. So that is why it does take two to tango, I think, in this process as well. When it comes to Kosovo, we will absolutely deliver on all of the necessary reforms.
So we see and we take it from here that there's still a lot of work to do, and we wish you all the best in dealing with this work. Just finally, since you mentioned our Swiss national team, on behalf of all the football fans here in the room, we want to thank you for all the Kosovo. And I see there are a lot of fans, apparently, for all the Kosovo talent in there. They are playing tonight against Greece, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people, a lot of players will be from Kosovo heritage. There's one thing, and I know it's a huge blunder, one thing we always get wrong. We call probably the best player of the team Xherdan Shaqiri. Tell us, how do we pronounce him correctly?
It's Xherdan Shaqiri, and trust me on one thing, we have lots of Shaqiris in business, in ICT, in other technologies, so I welcome you all to see it for yourself.
Fantastic. With that promotion, we thank you very much. Thank you for your visit, Madam President. Thank you so much. Thank you.